Being able to throw like Gary Anderson? That would be a dream come true for many darts fans, especially those of the Flying Scotsman. We admit we are also absolute Gary Anderson fans, especially because his throwing style looks so elegant and smooth. There are quite a few who think that this is the most beautiful throw in the whole sport of darts. So it's high time for a Darts Decoded video about Gary Anderson's throw. First of all, we would like to say that it is not recommended to try to copy his throw one-to-one, but there are one or two details that you might be able to integrate into your throw. Ready? Let's go with Darts Decoded Gary Anderson's throw. As always, let's take a look at the Aki stand first. Here, we can directly observe the first special feature of his throw. As we can see very clearly here, Gary briefly steps on the edge of the Aki with his right foot before taking his stance. There is not a single throw in which he omits this ritual. This quirk is as much a part of his throwing rhythm as popcorn is to the cinema. Incidentally, it is advisable for every player to get into the habit of having a certain ritual for the throwing rhythm that you repeat with every throw, because the brain loves repetition and it can help you to develop a feeling of security on every board in the world if you always have the exact same sequence. It can be a certain sequence of steps, a movement, or even the short kick on the Aki. If you'd like us to go into this topic in more detail in a separate video, feel free to write it in the comments. Let's get back to Gary Anderson's stance. After stepping onto the Aki with his foot, he leans slightly forward with the foot of his standing leg against the Aki. Similar to Luke Humphries in our last video, you can see that his foot is almost vertical to the board. Now we come to how Gary Anderson grips his darts. He only uses 3 fingers for this, but they cover the entire area of the barrel. The rear part of his barrel lies in the middle joint of his index finger. He places his middle finger at the very front of the tip so that it almost looks as if he is pushing the dart down slightly at the front. For perfect stability, the middle of the barrel rests on his thumb on the opposite side. We tried throwing with this grip technique several times, but unfortunately the darts flew all over the place. Have you tried it for yourselves? By the way, another very elegant detail of his throw is how Anderson holds his darts in his left hand. Most players hold the darts completely in their hands. Gary, on the other hand, only holds the darts by the tip and pulls them out of a quiver with every throw. Have you ever noticed that? We have already reached the last part of the Flying Scotsman's throwing analysis. We have now seen exactly how Gary Anderson stands at the Aki, how he grips the dart. But what is his recipe for success with the throwing motion? Let's look at his movement in detail. Gary pulls the dart out of his quiver, his left hand, and moves his arm back until he almost stabs his right eye with the flight. It is very interesting to see that he actually throws exactly in front of his eye, and thus forms a target line to the board. Only very few players pull the dart so precisely in front of their dominant eye, even if it actually makes sense in terms of logic. It is also striking that Anderson has incorporated a short stopping movement in front of his eye, which he only uses on the first dart. This means that the throw looks slightly different for darts 2 and 3 than for dart number 1. Interesting, isn't it? The last detail before we reach the end of the video is that, unlike many other top players, Gary Anderson does not bend his wrist at the end of his throwing motion, but leaves it relatively straight in line with his arm in the finishing motion. However, in the Decoded MVG video, we discussed the fact that bending can be an advantage and gave a training tip in this regard. Feel free to watch it after this video. That brings us to the end of this edition of Darts Decoded Gary Anderson's throw. We hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to try throwing like Gary on the practice board, but bear in mind that it won't do your throw any good if you try to force a technique on yourself that doesn't suit you, even if Gary's technique looks so beautiful. We have seen that most of you who watch our videos have not yet subscribed to the channel. You would make us very happy if you took the time to click on the subscribe button. You can also activate the bell so that you are always notified when we publish a new video. Thanks for watching and see you next time at Darts Decoded. Watch, learn, and win.